For me, sometimes I like to go back to watch my older content just to see how far I've come over the years. I do try to not get extremely cringy over it because I will admit, some of them are pretty trash. And that's why I'm kinda on this road of redemption, to look back on my previous work and see if they need any improvement or potential re-reviews because the older videos are outdated. And when it comes to outdated videos, the old Crash Bandicoot videos come to mind. The video game series that kick-started my channel. Some of my opinions on games like Crash Team Racing and Mind Over Mutants, for example, are pretty much the same feelings I have now, so there's no need to go back to them. But the ones I'll be going through in November to early December are Crash Nitro Kart, Twinsanity, and Tag Team Racing. And my opinions on those games have surely changed. I've gained a lot of experience over the years, and I want to use my current knowledge to give some past games the right amount of respect and fairness, but also be critical if necessary. And when it comes to re-looking at some of my past content, Crash Nitro Kart was always going to be on top of that list. And since I'm a lot more mature nowadays, hey man, sorry to bother you, I just noticed that there's a piece of shit out in the lounge room, and I was just wondering if you did it. Yep, okay, just remember to clean up once you're done. Thanks. Before we actually get started on the Crash Nitro Kart review, there is something I should mention. I did watch my old review of Crash Nitro Kart and, oh boy, I was really harsh on that one. Then again, you'll have to understand where I was coming from at the time. From playing the game back as a kid to my teenage days growing up, I absolutely hated this game to oblivion. It wasn't a good game to me because everything just felt off and bizarre. And since I haven't played this game for a very long time, let's see if my opinion has changed or if it remains the same. I'll probably go on to add that I won't be talking about what happens in the beginning of the story, mainly because I've already mentioned it before in my old review, and it'll be a waste of time in my opinion. And plus, you already know the plot anyway, since I'm assuming most of you guys and gals are fans of Crash Bandicoot. And that's the same reason for the upcoming Crash Twinsanity and Crash Tag Team Racing videos that'll be uploaded soon. But what I will talk about is what I think about the story, and it's simple, it gets straight to the point because the main focus is mostly towards the gameplay than the actual plot, and the beginning portions is somewhat similar to Crash Team Racing's story, but with an invasion. And the difference is, Oxide wanted to race against the best of the best, and you don't have to be forced to compete, while Emperor Velo threatens to destroy Earth unless if the gang are forced to race in the Galaxy circuit. In Adventure Mode, instead of choosing an individual racer, you can select a team, either Team Bandicoot that features Crash, Coco and Crunch, or Team Cortex that features Cortex, Engine and Tiny Tiger. Before you begin a race, you have the option to select what teammate to choose, and each one is different gameplay wise. Characters like Tiny and Crunch will have not great speed but good turning, while Engine and Coco will have great speed but not good turning. Crash and Cortex are an all-rounder, which makes them the better option to select, but you do you. For this playthrough, I decided to try out Team Cortex. And here is where my first complaint comes into play. Well, how shocking, that didn't take long at all. So in Nitro Kart, there's a total of 4 teams you can play. So why can't we play as Team Oxide and Team Trance in Adventure Mode? If you ask me, bringing that option in could deliver even more storytelling. And Trance wants to mind control everyone to reach to the top, and Oxide can race for redemption to be the fastest racer in the galaxy once again, or something along those lines. I just feel it's a wasted opportunity to not include it in the story. And also, when it comes to choosing what team to play as, they don't talk with each other at all during cutscenes. If anything, you'll see the same cutscenes as before, but instead of Team Bandicoot interactions with the bosses and Velo, you have Team Cortex instead with different dialogue. And again, this does waste an opportunity for different teams to interact with one another. I would have liked to have seen Cortex being angry at Crash once again, or Crunch and Tiny having a bench pressing competition or something like that, just to develop character instead of not having to hear the same lines as before. But as far as the graphics go, it does look really good. I love the animations as it's smooth and it's pretty colorful. As I've stated, for me, I'm all about the gameplay rather than the graphics, but at least I can say it's definitely one of the best good looking Crash games on the PlayStation 2 console. Before checking out the hub world, we first have to sit through Uka Uka's speech animation, and man, it has not aged well at all.
You will have to race in order to win the Galaxy Circuit and save Earth for us to conquer!
Oh my, what a beautiful day it is today. A lovely time to go to the beach. I might buy some fish and chips while I'm at it. Exploring around the hub world here is pretty basic, although when you want to check out the next area, you have to be teleported and witness a loading screen, which I do think it's a downgrade compared to CTR on how you can just head to the next area without any loading screens at all. I'll mention here that I unfortunately don't have footage and I can't record the PlayStation 1 edition at this stage. But if I do mention CTR for the PS1, I'll let you know. But anyway, it's time to talk about the gameplay side of things. And the first thing that I probably should mention it's probably going to be the controls. Controls can be a bit complicated to talk about sometimes. Say if I'm playing a platform game or an open world game, at times I can forgive a game having weird controls depending on what kind of game it is. But for a racing genre, the controls in a racing game is the top priority in any racing game. It is literally a make or break, and if it fails, then there's a good % chance that the entire game will suffer. I mentioned in my old review that the controls for handling your kart in Nitro Kart is slippery. Well, as far as future me is concerned, the controls are meh. They're pretty meh to me. I will admit, it's not the tightest controls in a racing game, but it's not the worst and it's not the end of the world. I can move my kart around and can use my power slide to the direction I want, to an extent that is. But however, when you compare the controls to Crash Team Racing on the PlayStation 1, the control handling in Nitro Kart is laughable. And not the good kind of laughter, the kind I'm talking about is...
The fuck is that?
Crash Team Racing, on the PlayStation 1 that is, has set the bar very high for future competitors. When it comes to Crash Nitro Kart, Vicarious Visions was always going to struggle with trying to match that same style that CTR had. And they made a decent effort here, I'll give them credit, but there was no way they were going to surpass Crash Team Racing's controls, not by a long shot. I feel that the faster you go, the trickier it can be when trying to power slide a tough corner or to get through a shortcut. And as for the speed and momentum, every time I do end up bumping on the sides, it can take a while to get that speed back. And for a racing game, that really does blow. I will admit, I did get distracted just by looking at the character icons. Engine looks like he's trying to figure out what 2 plus 2 is, Zam is having an intense staring contest with you, and I think Dingo Doll just had an orgasm. Oh yeah, Dingo Doll is in this game. Nope, stop, cut the music. That was a terrible joke to do back in the day, and we're definitely not going to do that. Fuck that shit. The racetracks in Nitro Kart, while a handful of them do take certain elements from Crash Team Racing, the look and design of them are actually pretty okay. You have a giant clock in Out of Time and you can drive around it. Thunderstruck has this greenish sky that always rains. Wait, is greenish even a word? Oh yeah, it is a word. But that's only just naming a few. The number of racetracks here are only 13 of them, so it is smaller than CTR's, but I'm not that fussed over it. There's even new weapons when you break a box, like ice shards, static orbs, and tornado for example. And also, in the racetrack, you have an anti-gravity system that allows you to drive upwards, to the sides, and even upside down. An idea that Mario Kart 8 took many years later. I just thought I included that in, otherwise someone will probably say it in the comment section. I can see the idea and where they were coming from, but I'm not a huge fan of them. Every time I enter in those sections, I seem to lose my momentum when driving. And that could be depending on how narrow the track is or how many loops or turns there are. I like to believe that with losing the momentum along those areas, that's why they fix it up in Nitro Fueled by removing the anti-gravity system entirely and replacing it with a simple track layout. Overall, I do find myself liking some of the racetracks here, but most of that is mainly due to having a similar design back over in CTR. But there was this one weird thing they did added in Nitro Kart, and that new feature is the team meter. When you race along with your teammate, your meter bar will start to fill up. The closer you are, the faster it'll refill, and once it's full and activated, random weapons will appear and you can use them, sending a barrage of destruction to your opponents for a limited amount of time. I don't like this, and I honestly try to ignore it if possible. It can be very distracting for me, and it does end up being useless anyway since I'm far ahead of the competition. I think Nitro Kart would have been better off without this feature. The music, while not exactly memorable, but it does sound pretty catchy once hearing it. Not the best, but it could be a lot worse. There's also other game modes to play and choose from, like time trials to beat end trophies time. You can also race against your own time as well. You can compete in battle modes against your mates in multiplayer, and in adventure mode, you can do the relic challenges where you complete 3 laps in a race in a time limit, and the token challenges to collect the tokens C, N, and K while finishing in first place. Yeah, good luck with that. And then you have the bosses, and each one does have a unique personality. Unfortunately though, I find myself not being invested in these boss characters because they don't have enough time to be fully established. They have one small cutscene before the race, you race against them, and another small cutscene afterwards, and that's it. Yeah, Crash Team Racing on the PlayStation 1 had the same treatment with their bosses, but those characters have already been established in past Crash games, therefore we already know their character traits. In Nitro Kart, these are brand new characters, and I wish they had a bit more time so I can fully get myself into them. But what sucks the most about it is they are not playable characters in the game at all. It's just super weird, and it makes me think these characters offer no purpose to the entire game. If the Game Boy Advance version has these characters playable, but not the PlayStation 2 version, then something is completely wrong. And that was Crash Nitro Kart. The way I see it, at the end of the day, it's just Crash Team Racing 2.0, but without the tight controls and feeling like a downgrade. Visually, it looks really good, and I was stunned to how nice it was to view it, but however, as mentioned earlier, gameplay is what I'm all about, and there are quite a few issues I have with it, like the anti-gravity system, the T-nut mechanic, and of course, the controls. I kinda wish that when it comes to the racetracks here, they could have made their own layouts and hazards. Like, it's okay to take something from CTR for the sake of inspiration, but it looks way too obvious that once you notice the similarities, your brain immediately thinks of Crash Team Racing. In my old Crash Nitro Kart review, I gave this game a 4 out of 10, calling it a mediocre game and quite possibly the worst game in the Crash Bandicoot series. Do I recommend playing Nitro Kart? I mean, yeah, if you consider it a nostalgic game to you, but I would have to say no and to insist on playing the PlayStation 1 version of CTR or even Nitro Fueled. It has the same tracks from Nitro Kart, but just better controls and a better layout style. So, with that in mind, what do we do with this game? So with that said, I'll be giving Crash Nitro Kart the updated score of 5 out of 10. It may not be a perfect game by any means, but at least I can go on to add that it's not a terrible video game. To me, Crash Nitro Kart is an average racing game. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is probably going to be the best praise you're going to get out of me when it comes to this game. But anyways, that's going to wrap up this review. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. You can follow me on Instagram, the link will be down in the description box below, and as always, take care, have a great day, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all next time.